Welcome guys! Today we're talking about knowing your enemy, and this week we're talking about the Custodes. Now, I absolutely love the Custodes, and they have got some crazy tricks. So, the idea behind this video is to go over some of the cool stratagems. We're not doing a review here guys, we're just talking tactics, and we're going to tell you some of the key things that you need to know about if you're playing Custodes. So you're probably going to know already about the swooping dive and some of the headline strategies, but you're not going to know about some of the cheeky tricks such as Tanglefoot grenades, which can really turn a game in their favour. So guys, enjoy the video, and as always, let me know what you think. Welcome guys, it's Andy here from D6 Evolution, and today we are talking about knowing your enemy, in particular knowing the golden boys, the Custodes, and how to beat them. So, anyone who's new to the channel, we're all about 40k tactics, and we do regular tactics videos to help you improve your game. So, on with the video. So, the idea behind this video is to aid people who haven't played Custodes much. And it's really just about, if you've not faced an army before, really understanding what tricks your opponent's going to do. You probably know one or two headline stratagems, like you're going to know that these guys, they can swooping dive you and they can charge in your turn. That's cool, but you're not going to know all the little tricks that these guys can do. And let me tell you, the Custodes, they have tricks everywhere. And I'm just going to go through some of them, because there's going to be some things which you're probably not going to expect. Now, any Custodes players out there who are listening in, let me know if you think there's something I should have included in this video. But like I said, this is my opinion. This is what I think are some of the coolest stratagems in the book, and it's mainly based on my experience on playing them. So first up, the Tanglefoot grenade. This is my favourite. Essentially, it is a grenade that an infantry guy can throw at a non-fly unit, even a vehicle, even an Imperial Knight, and it reduces your movement by d6. And it can happen either at the start of the movement phase or the start of the charge phase. So, why is it so good? That's the question. And I'll tell you why it's so good. It's because basically, if these guys roll high, a 5 or a 6, they can stop you falling out of combat if your movement's only 5 or 6. So, because if they base to base you, and bear in mind most of their army will be in combat with you, if they base to base your unit and you can only move 6 inches and they reduce your movement by a 5 or a 6, you can't leave combat. Now all of a sudden, you can't shoot the Custodes army, and you probably lost that game. That's why it's such an important stratagem. Next up, I'm going to talk about a few of the tricks that the shield captain up here can do, and he is an absolute boss of a unit. So, shield captains, they can do something called shoulder the mantle, so they can become your warlord when your warlord dies, which I think is an absolutely incredible thing. And when they become your warlord, they get a Custodes warlord trait immediately. So the one you take with this, if your opponent's is in your lines, is you take the one which lets you essentially heroically intervene with all your units, all your Custodes units within 12 of this shield captain. So suddenly, all of the Custodes army essentially can pile in and fight with the heroic intervention rule. Guys, and if you don't fully understand the heroic intervention rule, it's incredibly strong. We've done a video on it. I'll drop the link on the screen. Now, the other thing I think is worth saying while we're talking about the shield captain is they can do something called Victor of the Blood games. Essentially, what that allows you to do is have an extra reroll on a saving throw. That's essentially what your opponent's going to use it on. So these guys, they're usually rocking up 3-up invuln with a relic. They're usually, you can get a reroll to that save with your standard command point. Then you get one each turn with your Victor of the Blood games, and some players even have access to another reroll, such as the Imperial Guard Grand Strategist. So all of a sudden, this guy is getting up to 3 rerolls on a 3-up invuln, and maybe he's even taking the Warlord trait to give him a 5-up feel no pain on top of that. So this guy is ultra survivable, and sometimes people just leave him out in the open, just tempting you to shoot him, because actually the amount of resources you're going to use trying to shoot this guy is almost counterproductive. So just be really careful about how much firepower taking out one of these guys, is going to actually take. So let's talk about a few stratagems with the bikes. So the bikes are an absolute powerhouse in the Custodes army. Now the first one I think to talk about is if you ever try and charge these guys, they usually run in a big unit. They've got a stratagem called unflinching, which essentially lets them overwatch on 5s. Now these guys have 12 shots each. That's a lot of DACA. So if you get a big unit of 9 or 10 of them, that's absolutely filthy. Overwatching on 5s, they'll be re-rolling 1s because they're near the shield captain. You're probably not going to survive getting into combat with them. The other really cool one that essentially any Custodes can do, but is usually used on the bikes because they're the main combat unit in the army, is that you can combat interrupt for a second time. So you've got your standard one for 2 CP, which everyone has, but these guys also have a 1 CP combat interrupt as well. So it's worth remembering that. So, you know, if your opponent's only on 1 command point, they can still interrupt you, and they can interrupt you for a second time. But essentially they have to be within 3 inches of an objective. So watch out for that one. They can also deny a psychic power if you're within 12 inches of the caster. So that's really good. And they deny it just like a psyker. So that's a really easy trap to fall into. You know, in your psychic phase, you can carelessly suddenly just have your key power denied because you went a little bit too close to these guys. Another absolutely brutal one, which I tend to use, is Avenge the Fallen. And I use that on a big unit of bikes when they're taking some damage. So I run a big unit of 9 bikes. I lose 4 of them. I pop the stratagem for Avenge the Fallen. And that means I get 1 extra attack per each guy which I lost that turn. So my remaining 5 guys, they get 8 attacks each because they gain 4 extra attacks. So that unit of 5 is putting out 40 attacks between them. And that can pretty much kill anything in the game. So they are what I think are the key stratagems, which you probably don't know about. Now, the ones which you probably have heard of, Custodes can put units into Deep Strike, it's called, from the Golden Light. But it's essentially standard Deep Strike rules. So they're usually going to put a unit of the bikes in reserve. Or you can put 2 units of bikes in reserve. Now, the thing which really works well off this is that they can teleport them for 3 CPs next to this Vexilla guy here, and they can drop with it just over 3 inches of the enemy. So that is absolutely brutal. Now there's another slightly more situational thing that Custodes players may try on you. There is a relic called the Praetorian Plate, which essentially they take on a banner bearer here when Terminator armor. And what they aim to do is they nominate a Imperium character in their own army at the start of the game, and if that Imperium character is in combat on the opponent's turn, this guy can teleport over and help him as such. Which essentially means that all of a sudden this teleporter Homer is on, you know, your side of the table, and guess what he's going to do on his turn, which comes up next? He's going to drop that massive unit of bikes into your deployment zone 3 inches away from you, and that's game over. So that's a really, really strong one. The other relic which you can get for Custodes, which is worth mentioning, is the Castellan's Mark. Now, I've used this a few times. I think it's really, really cool, actually. It's essentially a redeployer unit. So the character and the unit redeploy somewhere. So you can stack one of the board edges with a massive unit of bikes. And once your opponent's finishing deploying, essentially he's going to be forced to deploy on the other side of the board. Then you just go and switch over and put your massive unit of bikes right next to, right on the same side as your opponent. Obviously, you still have to deploy in your own deployment zone, but it can really catch people off. I think it's absolutely excellent relic to use. So one of the next little stratagems I want to talk about is the swooping dive. Now, this is the big one. This is what made this codex famous. Essentially, you can charge at the end of your opponent's turn, and it's usually with a big unit of bikes or a shield captain. They can charge their standard 2d6 inches, so basically, just don't get near these guys. And the dirty thing about this stratagem, the thing which makes it so powerful, is that even if you have charged, if these guys swooping dive in, they fight first. They fight before charging units, which makes this thing phenomenally powerful. You get a big unit of 9 bikes charging in, nothing's going to be left essentially, because they get their bonuses for charging, they get their rerolls to wound. It's really strong, guys. So guys, that is what I think are the top stratagems. Now, like I said, I'm not covering everything. Custodes have, depending on what units you take, they have some absolutely wicked little things which I haven't covered. But I think they're the things you're going to see most often. I love Tanglefoot Grenade. That's my favourite. So, comment below. Let me know what you think of these videos. Hopefully we're going to do some more on some of the other armies. Hopefully I'm going to do Dark Angels next. And I think Simon's going to try and do one for Tau as well. Which I'll appreciate because I have no idea how Tau works. It's all about marker lights, but I don't know much more than that. So, let me know what you think. And guys, if you haven't already, consider subscribing.